Hello fellow Hearts of the Blue and welcome to another Royal Retinue review. You may be asking what is this review and why do you have a crown on your head? Well, the review is the space where I use to give something back to my very lovely patrons and YouTube members because I don't offer any exclusive videos. So this is the time of the month where they can submit pictures and I will review them online and give them feedback for them to become better painters. And I hope you have something to eat, and I hope you or something warm to or cold to drink, because this is jam packed. We have more submissions than any other month. These are, if I'm not mistaken, 18 submissions. And sorry for the slightly late arrival, because one of the submissions had a very small picture and I was waiting for that patron to send me a bigger one so I could use. As per usual here, I won't be able to give you to read any of the comments while I'm doing the review. So if you have any questions to ask, leave them in the chat and I will go later on and read all the comments. Yeah, before we jump into this massive review, as with all my live streams, I like to give a little bit of hindsight on what's coming next. So I have this here that I cannot show you. I have Aerial, which is probably the next heavy contrast tutorial. I have this a small little grot, the cute grot I'm going to be painting very soon for a new series that I'm very excited about. And the same comes with this very blue Space Marine, which is also for the same series and I'm working at the moment. All of those videos are coming next, including probably more videos of something very, very special that I can't talk about, related to this mini behind hand that you couldn't see. We have also a lot of people watching, a lot of my patrons. I recognize most of the names: Crystallius, Chelsea, Charlie, Paul Blunt, Andy B is here. Fantastic. So before we have a question, Jacobo is asking, did you finish your Lord Croc paint? No, I didn't, and I don't plan to. Maybe in the future, but not for the time being. That series is cancelled. That mini broke me. So why don't we jump into the review, because this is going to be a very long one and we better get started. So we are going to start with this absolutely stunning piece by Paul. There are a lot of repeated names, so if you submit it first, you are going to be Paul, and if you are also Paul and you submit it later, you will be Paul plus your surname. So this is Paul because he was first, and he submitted this absolutely stunning piece. Standout things that I really like: the sheer, the see-through sheer cloth is very well done, as well as the sword. Look at this beautiful TMM that he has done here, very well executed, by the way. And the whole scene is just beautiful, including this water falling from the feet of the creature. As for things to improve, well, what I would like to see is more of this. You see this beautiful water effects? It needs more, clearly, and I will probably, this is not your fault, Paul, but I will probably add this resin over all of these water effects. Whoops. Whoa. What you doing? Sorry about that, guys. It was a bit of a frantic time preparing this. So what I would do is add more of that onto all of this water. Come on. All of these water effects. Just add this resin all over them. It's going to help unify. And I also would like to see more of this kind of stringy, super realistic water coming from these feet all over that mini. So from more of the claws and from parts of the body as well. That would be my main thing that just jumps out at me when I see it, because this looks awesome, and this water doesn't look as awesome as this. So coating this with this resin would surely help integrate everything into this scene. Apart from that, I think the lady is fantastic and is extremely well painted, and it really should, because she's the center of the scene. But I feel like the horse, or whatever it's, I know it has a name, but I just cannot remember what it's called. I feel like he is a bit not as well painted, and it really kind of I kind of feel like it needs a bit more work, just because the lady is so well done. So I know you have some highlights, but I will probably increase them a bit more. It looks like it was done with contrast paints, which is awesome. It works fantastically well for this kind of thing. Let me just see if I can. Damn, I hate Photoshop. So yes, this should work. Let's see if I can. Again, sorry, I really wasn't prepared. It's been quite a frantic day today. Okay. So I will probably increase the highlights on this horsey thing, especially on the front here where he is in front of the lady. Again, being muscles, concentrating this towards the upper sections. You can move into a lighter hue here. Just because the lady looks extremely... he has a lot more work than the horse, so it kind of stands out, and you kind of want to integrate everything. So I would just add more highlights into the horsey around where the lady is, basically. This will also draw attention to that area, which is what you want. But yeah, that's basically it for the horse. And we are going to concentrate us in the lady here. I really like the sheer cloth effect, but I think it has... I understand why you did it this way, but I think it's too transparent at some points and too little transparent at others. So I will probably glaze everything with this cloth color. Let me see if I can do something like that. So we have this color, I think, would be ideal to glaze over everything just a little bit. Let me just turn the opacity down to a minimum and see if we can do something about that. See, I'm going to integrate the cloth a bit more over the body. Maybe a darker hue would be better. You can see if it's doing very transparent passes. There you go. And also, of course, on the face as well, because the whole face should be covered with this. And things like her eyes, really, being further down, they are not, the cloth is not directly touching those eyes. So it's, I don't know if it's a sculpt thing or something, but it feels like it should be more subtle. Maybe, I know, I understand what you did this way, but I feel like something like this would be maybe better. Maybe, I'm not sure. This is I'm not an expert at this, Paul. So take this with a grain of salt. Let me just grab this skin tone. I may have gotten a bit too overboard on the face. Something like this. If everything that is covered by this cloth is a bit more gray, even if it's touching, like directly touching the skin with a wet cloth, I feel like it kind of reads better, that sheer cloth effect. And as well as that, I will probably introduce the same flesh tones in the creases here as you did on the other side, because why wouldn't you? If you're going to do sheer cloth, you just may as well do it everywhere. Like that. You don't need to do much. Just as you see, just a little pass with a thin down meat flesh tone on the crevices, on the recesses of the arms, is enough to convey that effect perfectly well, just like that. So that would be my advice here. Not being an expert on sheer cloth, something that I haven't done much yet, but I may do a video on it. I think you should glaze a little bit of those grays over the parts of the flesh that are covered, especially. I think it may help to integrate everything, because it kind of looks a bit separated from the both things. So you can glaze it, or you can just mix a little bit of the gray with the flesh tones. Maybe something like on that part, but yeah, I think it looks fantastic. Anyway, I don't know if I did it better or not, but that's what I did. Yeah, I will, and again, I will probably highlight the horsey from the middle upwards. So you don't need to touch this part. You don't need to touch all the green bits. You just need to highlight from the middle of the horse up a little bit more to get it in line with the lady here. Maybe you could just highlight this area, really. This middle section here would be probably enough. Yeah, and the gem, I like when I just saw this, so I'm just going to comment on this. When I do gems, I like to make this part a bit darker, where the reflection is. So with a very dark brown or a black, just take it and just do a very small dot of white here, just like that. But well, that is just a small pointer. So like this and like this. I really hope you you like that, Paul. This is a very lovely piece, as I said. I really like it. And that sword is stunning. You did a fantastic job with the blending and with the highlight placements and all of that. So keep on. This is the kind of piece that I see someone has put a lot of effort, and it has been pushing his limits, and that's something that I really like to see, because that's the way to improve. So well done, Paul, and I hope you can see another piece on the next month. Let's move into the second one. We're jumping into the last one, but no, we're going to move into the second one. This is Anton. Anton has made a beautiful octopus lady with a very striking color scheme and a very striking highlight patterns and highlight a style which is very characteristic of Anton, this is not the first mini we have seen of him. I think this is the third or fourth time that he submitted, and he's always very bold, very extreme contrasty on his highlights, a style that I personally really like. The only thing I will probably work here is, for example, you have this, you can see all of the highlights here, but my main thing here is probably on the top of the tentacles here. You should have a lighter color overall than on the bottom part. So I will probably grab this and probably just highlight more of the tentacles on all of this with a very smooth glaze, which I know is not something easy, but I will probably just highlight more of the top of the tentacles here, near where they are facing directly the light and they are higher up. So all of this section, all of this, all of this. And of course I am an idiot and I'm painting over the original picture, but it's one of those days. Just like this. And then you can just keep on highlighting. So we have this very nice salmon color, and you can make these highlights bigger because now you have a brighter overall surface, so you can go bolder and stronger with the highlights. And that will create a better atmosphere overall. Just like that. And then you can just go for the max highlight and just do it a bit bigger, and again increasing this, the contrast and the overall dramatic look of the mini. So you can clearly see the difference here. Let me see if I can see the original one. There you go. And the improved highlight on the mini. This is again, we haven't added a brighter highlight. We just use the colors present on the mini, but just playing with top, like upward facing surfaces should be brighter than the lower section. We are gathering attention over the torso. We are, and the same of course will be applied here on this shoulder ridges here. So every bit of attention is thrown into the torso and that kind of stuff. Other thing that you should probably work with is smoothing your transitions, because you can see here the very obvious highlights. So you get here this, just grab there. There you go. Just see. There you go. So you can get smooth this out basically, just with some glazes or mixing these two colors together, just so it isn't as evident as this was. And the same for the next highlight. Again, you can mix it. It's very easy to do on a computer, I know, but you can also do it on the rest of the mini. And you can get something like this and do an edge highlight here. Let's see if I can. Yeah. It's too big. I will probably edge highlight these because it makes it easier to read. Just like that. And then we can take this color here and just apply it on these corners, and suddenly that section of the crown is easier to read kind of looks better, and again gets more attention on her face, which is lovely, by the way. You did a fantastic job. Same smoothing can be done here. You can see these highlights here are a bit rough, so again smoothing them out will help quite a lot. And on the torso, I really like this. This is a very good example of how to attract attention to a certain part, because this blue is not present anywhere else, so your eyes go immediately there, which is what you want. And it's very well done, it's very striking, and I like that you introduced that blue also on her lips. It makes for a fantastic job. You could probably do her eyes. Let me just see if I can. If you make the, whoops. You make the iris a bit bigger. This is just like super pro stuff, but I've been following Anton's work for a while, and he probably should be able to do this. But again, this is pro stuff here now. We're going to reduce this, and let's try to do a small dot of white. There you go. You've seen me done this in my videos, and this really helps to draw attention to the face even more. And this is a lovely face, so you should draw attention to it. Very nice. So yeah, just smoothing some of the brown transitions out, or all the transitions in general, but it's not critical. But the most important part is using the natural volumes of the miniature and playing with that zenithal light, so we create a better overall feel and more contrast without using lighter colors, which is something that some people forget you can do. You can create a lot of contrast without increasing your highlights, just by placing the highlights better, and this is a case for this. So a fantastic job, Anton, and I really like it, and I hope we can see more in the next month. Let's move into the third one. This is Tim, and Tim has been improving a lot. This is NMM, everything is NMM. The armor is exquisite. Ragnar, or I think it's Ragnar. I don't know. All the Space Wolves look the same to me. And he's done a great job. There are certain areas where I don't know if this is a work in progress or not, but there are certain areas that haven't had any highlights, like this icon here or the back of the hair, and I think maybe he has forgotten about them, or this is again this could be a work in progress, which I don't know. Maybe I should have asked, but yeah, the overall highlighting on the armor is just perfect. Tim has a fantastic sense for light, and that is very important. You can see that even if the transitions are not smooth, just by understanding contrast and light, you can create an amazing effect without really blending very much. I think Marco Frisoni did a video very recently about how you can highlight and create an amazing effect without blending, just by knowing where to put the light, just by some rough sketching and some careful stippling and stuff like that. It's a fantastic video, like everything Marco does. It's a great video. So if you want to see it, I will go there and have a look. So I'm going to consider this as a work in progress, and he haven't had time to finish this kind of details, but I think it needs a little bit more highlight on the back of the hair. Not as many as on the front, but just getting a mid-gray like this and just painting this end of the hair like that. Just a little bit like that helps not making it not look unfinished. But I'm going to guess that was unfinished after all. So another thing that I really like this sword. I think it's very well chosen, that kind of pattern of highlights. You can see that he has done the correct thing, because he doesn't have all of them spaced equally or equally as wide. You have one highlight here, very small, not as bright, a very bright, very big highlight here, and more separate you have another big highlight here, etc, etc. That is the correct way to do it. And the only thing missing is the edge highlights on the runes. Oops. Just make this a bit smaller. There you go. Let me create another layer and see if we can. There you go. If you really need to pick up these runes here, because otherwise it doesn't look like metal. If this was metal, these runes, these edges on these runes will catch the light 100%, and it will be very bright. That's what metal does. So you need to pick off these edges here, and you can see the difference. It really makes everything stand out more. Same goes for the edge here on the bottom, by the way. There you go. There you go. Fantastic. Yeah, that really works very well. Just like that. Look at that. I think it's an definitely improvement on this sword. And again, the slight highlights on the hair, not very bright, because you don't want to rub attention to the face. So I would just do them very subtly, because that's kind of the style of this piece. Is very Richard Gray in the kind of how it's painted, with very bright spots of highlight and very really flat surfaces. But if you manage to catch the light well, it doesn't really matter if the rest is a bit flat, because those bright spots of light are going to be really impactful. So yeah, same goes here. A bit of highlights on the shadows, because this will be catching light for sure. Same for here, etc, etc. You can probably use a darker color than this. This is kind of an ice yellow. You can go for something darker, something like yellow sand, so pale sand, something like that. And I think the leather, I would probably do a little bit more work on the leather. I will probably take something like a flesh tone. So something like this, something like Kislev flesh tone, something like that. And I will just do very thin lines with this, just picking the corners and adding more of those scratches that you already have done, and they look very well. Just like that. Just to, I think they need a little bit more contrast, especially on the corners, stuff like that, because the leather, and I think the best way to highlight leather is using the flesh tone if you want like a natural looking leather, because once the leather is worn off, it does kind of look like a flesh tone, because well, it's basically is skin. So just like that. So you see, really making a difference on this quite boring section. But I really think this is a work in progress. But just to be sure, this will be my basic tips. Is just be sure you are highlighting the edges on the runes, stuff like that. For example, let me just grab this bright yellow ochre. There you go. You can also use this to, again, picking these edges here on the shadows, just like that. You can see here. This is what helps sell the metallic effect. And you can clearly see the difference from this to this. Just that simple highlight. It's not even blended, it's just a line. Makes it look more metallic. At least that's my opinion. But again, great work by Tim as usual. It's like a stunning piece. Let's move into the fourth one. This is Xavier, and he has submitted whatever this is. It's a dwarf pirate. I think we have quite a lot of dwarves in this video, which is funny. People know that I don't particularly enjoy dwarves very much, but let me just say, this looks amazing. This is a very moody piece. The color choices are great, and I think it's very well painted. So I'm going to give a couple of advices. Things that I really like: this NMM, this bronze NMM with the verdigris staining the leather hat. The leather hat itself looks amazing. Looks like a real piece of leather, like worn, old, crusty leather. This is all kinds of awesome. I really like the shirt and the trousers. I think what I would probably do is try to work a bit more the cloth. So you can take these highlights. The cloth, you can see how the piece itself, because the paint's a bit satin, is creating a highlight here, and it's basically telling you what you're missing. So you should be highlighting that there, and the crease there as well, just like that. You see the difference that creates a more realistic here on the bottom, a more realistic looking cloth. There you go. This is something that historical painters do a lot. If you see historical minis, you will see that the highlights go up into the bottom of the crease, and you have super dark and brightest, darkest dark and brightest highlight, like completely opposed to each other. Let's grab a little brighter color. There you go. Just like that, and just you can also pick up these folds here, and you can see the difference. Again, I've done the thing. You can see the difference from this, which doesn't look very realistic compared to the rest, to this. Now, if you start highlighting the cloth with the zenithal highlight in mind, and that includes this highlight here in the bottom of the crease. And let me explain you this. So if you have this crease that goes like this, yes, of course, the top of the crease, what I will do is do a drawing, because otherwise it's going to be complete stupidity. So let me just make another layer and create. So you have this crease which basically goes like this. Of course, when the light comes from above, something like this, of course the light will be hitting these spaces a lot, obviously, because they are the top of the creases, and the amount of light is going to be decreasing as the surface becomes more vertical. But this space here, the light will also hit it perpendicular, so this should be highlighted as well. So you should have a highlight here, maybe not as intense as the highlight here, but you should have a highlight, and this will be your areas of shadow. There you go, just like that. So I really hope that was useful, because it really makes a difference. And you can see, for example, here, how the paint being satin is creating that highlight for you, and it's telling you you need a highlight there. So you put it naturally, like here and here, that is what's going to create a better look overall, a more realistic look. I really recommend you go and check out the work done on historical minis by historical miniature painters, because what they do is absolutely amazing, and it really helps at understanding cloth, especially for cloth. They render cloth like no one else. It's absolutely stunning, something like this. Something like that. Look at that. Yeah. It really makes a difference. The rest of the piece is amazing. That's the only thing I can really tell you. I really like it, by the way. This is very good. The beard is good. The face is fantastic. And again, everything is fantastic. I don't know what you wanted to achieve with this sword. Is this a steel? Is this kind of a rock? I don't know. It's hard to tell. If you want this to be a rock that's submerged on the ocean, I will add some algae, some green hues here. It really needs them. And if it's supposed to be steel, I will probably rust it. But yeah, I will probably take some greens and add the greens here, just so you can convey the sense of this being a piece of rock that's being stuck in the bottom of the ocean, because it has things growing onto it, so it really should seems like it's been under the water. So I will probably just cover it with algae like this. And I will probably keep doing this over the whole thing, but I will concentrate it more towards this upper section, because you don't want attention here really. You want to keep the whole theme, but you don't want attention drawn with a bright green. So I will do that kind of green. And then with a brighter, more yellowy green, I will just add some touches here, more closer towards where his face is, something like that. There you go. That way, you have those greens in this section, which unifies everything, but you have more brighter greens towards the top, drawing attention to the upper half of the mini, which is what you want. Oh, let me just grab this. Okay, so here's another very good example of this. If you put a highlight kind of here and here, it starts to there you go. It kind of looks better to me. Maybe it's just me, but I'm starting to do this on my miniatures. You can check. The avatar is probably the best example. Let me just grab it. I know everyone has already seen this, but let me just grab that mini, and we can see, and you can see what I'm talking about. So there you go. This is the avatar. I'm going to put it on top just to show, and then we'll remove it. So there you can see how there are some highlights here on the crevices. You can see there and there. Those goes up to the very deepest shadows. And again, picking up, this is directly into the lowest crevice on the tabard here, and this again, this highlight on the crevice goes all the way down because the crevice is hitting, it's taking like all of the light as well as the top of the folds on the tabard. So that kind of thing. Same can be said. Oh my god, this has gone so pixely. This can be said for these creases here that you can see. Probably, maybe. There you go. Let's not rub attention to this very lovely piece by Xavier. And yeah, I will totally, with your style, I will go and look into historical painters, and I will try to emulate their cloth rendering, how they paint cloth, because it's really going to help you go to the next level. Because you are a fantastic painter, and that style really benefits a lot from understanding how cloth really works with real light. So, fantastic job, Xavier. I really like this. This is great. I'm really hoping to see more of you on the next month. So, let's move into Liam here. He's meeting a very lovely ogre. He said he's having troubles with painting large areas of leather, especially black leather. We don't see a lot of black leather because it's on the back. I'm sorry. We have an example here. Black leather is complicated because it's very shiny. So you probably want to treat it more like NMM than any other thing. It's very, very hard to do. What I do when I want to paint black leather and don't want to overcomplicate myself is I usually go for a cold looking leather. It's just easier. And I take something like Thunderhawk Blue, which will be something like this, more or less, I think. Yeah, probably something like this. And I just do a thick edge highlight, something sort of like that. Just grab a bigger brush here. Oops. Too big. And then try to do an edge highlight on everything, picking up this crevice, picking up all of the edges, and try to leave as much as I can pure black. That is my go-to. Then I go to something like Fenrisian Grey, which is something like this, more or less. Let's show something a bit smaller. And I do another full edge highlight, but this time I go thin. I need this full opacity for this. So it's more like the real deal. Something like this. And then I go to something very bright like blue horror or something like on this kind of space and just do some dots. And this is not ideal. I know it's not ideal, but as good as I can make it. Black leather is complicated, but if you make it shiny, kind of helps. That's my approach. It's not the best. It really isn't the best, but is as good as I can tell you, sadly. You can do some weathering with this. Just taking, I'm doing some scratches and lines. It really helps. You can be quite bold with how big the scratches are. It really all depends on what you want to achieve. But you can do some scratches because leather gets scratched a lot, so that helps as well to do that. So yeah. So from this to this, which I think is very, I know it's a very heavy metal style, heavy metal approach to painting leather. That's just how I how I do it. So that's the best advice that I can give you, really. And I'm going to touch into weathering again because you went, I think you were a bit too conservative with the scratches on this guy here. You can go much heavier than that, especially him being an ogre. You can go trying to pick up. There you go. I think I like that better. You can go much heavier. You can be a lot more aggressive with the weathering on his boots and the highlighting and everything. I think when you paint leather, being bold really pays off, at least for me. Stuff like that. Especially if you're painting like things like this, like which is an ogre. There you go. I like it. I think it's neat. Okay. And then you can move into a very light flesh tone. Let's see if there you go. And try to do some very final highlights. Oh, this is too pink. This is too pink. There you go. Picking up the rest and doing more of this, more. I like it. Okay. So another thing about the face is I really want to make people introducing more hues on the faces. I think it needs it. Let me just grab another layer to do this. You can take something like Carabao Crimson or something like Volupus Pink. There you go. Let's turn the opacity down as much as we can. A bigger brush, softer brush, and let's see what we can do. So I will 100% sure introduce this pink hues on his nose. He's a pirate. He has been drinking whatever this ogres drink. So tinting the nose and the cheeks with this pink really makes a difference. Look at that. You can really, don't tell me that that isn't better. And then you can just grab the brightest skin tone you used here and do a final highlight here on the nose and on the cheeks, just to regain that lost highlight. And there you go. Look at that. I think that really makes a difference. It makes him look more alive. Also, don't be afraid of picking up light reflection on the lips. I think it really helps and it really works. Just like that. Because lips are shiny for the most part. Look at that. Really makes a difference, doesn't it? That those hues, and it's very simple. It's just a glaze with Volupus Pink or with Carabao Crimson. Or if you're not confident with glazes, you can just, when you're painting those areas, just mix a little bit of Volupus Pink or Carabao Crimson or a dark magenta into your skin tone and just paint it with that for the highlights, and then just add your normal highlights later on. As for the forehead, I really like painting. Let me just make this bigger. I really like when I put a bright spot. Oh, just 10%. Come on. Let's just make it yellower. You can take something like a screaming skull for your final highlight. Should be something like that probably. Just add a yellower highlight on the top of the forehead like that. You can even bring it up to almost pure white and it's going to look awesome. There you go. Look at that. That spot of highlight on the forehead on one side, you don't need to put it on on both sides, just on one side, really makes a difference. Those if you see images painted by the very best people, you will see that kind of like very strong, very intense highlighting on the face, with yellows and with very pale ochres, stuff like that introduced onto the top of the head. Same as we introduced the red on the middle, and if he didn't have a beard, you could probably introduce blues and greens on the bottom. With these very large minions, it really helps a lot. And let me just grab that magenta again, because I'm going to show you. But this time I'm going to use something like Flesh Tear's Red. I'm going to reduce this again to a very thin glaze. And you can also pick the knuckles with this. I think I'm going to go more magenta-y with this. Yeah, I like that better. There you go. You pick the knuckles, the tips of the fingers, stuff like that. Look at that. He does. It really does look like he's been in a fight. I really like that on a pirate. It makes very good look. If you're a pirate, you probably want that look. And then you can again just re-highlight those knuckles, use some vertical lines. That really helps with this big minis, adding texture where it isn't, especially on parts like the skin and stuff like that. Really helps quite a lot. Look at that. I really like that. So subtle tricks, like adding more texture into the leather, adding hues into the skin, really makes big impact. This is super simple to do. It's just a couple of glazes, a final highlight, and you will get a better looking mini, because you are playing with, you are making him look more real. A skin, and especially on the faces, is something we recognize very well. Our brains are programmed to understand it very well, and when it's off, it's very easy for a face painted to not look natural, because we are very good at spotting that. One more addition, if you allow me to, is I will love to introduce some rust tones into this sword. I think this sword, this very flat surface, is a screaming for some rust tones. So I'm going to do it. Just take something like Scrag Brown and just do some very thin down and stipple it down just like this. I think I'm going to add something darker first. I'm going to pick a bigger brush. Yeah, I'm going to first something with a dark brown. Then we're going to move into Scrag Brown. This kind of light brown. And yeah, much better. You just stipple it down. You create this rust effect, and then you can go to something super bright. But you have to go smaller for that. And we can add this into the crevice here and here and here. Add a little bit more, I think that looks cool. I kind of like it, but you do you. And if you do that, you should probably also introduce some verdigris into the this brass details. Something like that. I think this guy is screaming for a bit more weathering overall. But yeah, those would probably be my choices here. This is optional, of course. This is a personal thing. But I highly encourage you to play with, especially with the skin tones. Add hues. It's very important. So if he has a bald head, it's perfect, a fantastic chance to add a bit more yellows into a bright spot on his forehead, adding reds into his cheeks, into his nose, especially with these massive faces and very characterful. It really helps. It really helps bring more character, even more into the faces. So, but again, I really like this pirate, Leon. You did a very good job overall, and I hope this helps you to get into the next level for the next one. So let's move into the sixth one. We have already an hour and only done 6 minutes. This is a great bust by Warren, and this is very well painted. And I think you can clearly tell how many, like we were talking about this. It has texture. It has hues on the skin, even if it's a green skin creature, has some reds, some oranges, some purples. You see the inside of his ears are this fleshy color that really helps out. I think it's a fantastic piece. It's very well painted, but I'm going to suggest just one thing, because I'm not going to tell you. You know how to paint very well. So the only thing that it's striking me, and this took me a while. I was looking at this picture for a very long time before I realized what it was that it was bothering me. And he has a lot of texture in his cloths. This is from the mini itself. It's not introduced by you, but you have concentrated too much into highlighting the texture and have lost the volumes as a result. So you can clearly see this in his backpack. Everything, all of the texture is highlighted and is very visible, but the volumes aren't. It's just very flat overall. So what I would probably do is, first of all, highlight all the volumes. So add more here, more of this ochre here, concentrate into picking up all of the, and I've done it again, into first of all highlighting the volumes, and then once all the volumes are highlighted, go and highlight the texture, because if you start with the texture, you are going to lose the volumes, and I think it's important to have the volumes in mind when you're painting a bust. So something like this. And then you can go with your brighter colors and keep adding those. Oh, this is too big and too soft. Let me make this harder and smaller. And you can add more texture and continue that texture across the gradient, but you need that initial gradient to be very well executed. Otherwise, you're going to lose all of the texture, all of the volumes that this lovely bust has. And the same can be applied on all of the other texture surfaces. So you can see the very dramatic difference from this, from this to the, come on, to this. Very important, very dramatic difference, and it's because we have taken care of the gradient first, and then we have added the texture instead of starting with a dark tone and then just highlighting based on the texture. You need to forget about the texture first. Paint the whole thing as it were flat, and then add the texture. That way you will get a better result, which is there. That's the only thing that was bugging me. It took me a while to realize that, but once I realized it, it was really apparent, and that is, I think, a very important thing to consider. So another thing here is, with bust, I think you should be volumetrically highlighting everything, like this, like here. So a bit more of volumetric highlights, and then you can add the texture again, as we were talking about. But I think it really needs it, and I think I would probably go darker with the separation here, so we have more separation on these bandages around these places. There you go. There you go. Just like that. Seems like it's not much, but I think it really makes a difference. Let me just pure some pure white and do some final highlights on the middle here. There you go. There you go. There you go. This is another example of that. So this looks good. I think this looks better. Again, with a bust, you really have to concentrate on the volumes first, on the light first. You did that for the skin very well, but for the leathers, I think you should reevaluate. Maybe not for this bust, it's a lovely bust, I wouldn't touch it, but for the next one, for the next bust, concentrate first into the volumes, into the light, and then add all the textural detail that is, even if it's sculpted, you should probably do it the other way around. But again, the rest is fantastic. I'm not going to touch anything else because it's really good. I hope I had more advice to give you. Make this be a bit longer for your mini, but you are a very good painter and I'm run out of things to say. But consider that. I think it will really help you quite a lot. Thank you, Warren. What a fantastic piece. I really love this. Let's move into Alexander, and he submitted a Chaos Slaneshi Dreadnought or whatever. I think it's called Hellbrute, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check if the mic is working well. Is the mic working well? Yes, the mic is working well. It would be quite embarrassing if the mic wasn't working well. After all of this time, wasn't it? Would have been an hour here of me talking in silence. Okay, so this is a complicated piece. Why? Because you have a pink, bright pink armor and a pink fleshy thing. And it's very easy for those two colors to clash. And I think Alexander has found a very nice balance overall. I really like how the pink is done. I really like how the flesh is done. There are some parts where I probably like a bit more contrast, but this looks like a gaming piece, so I'm not going to be like too mad about that. What I would like to see is the black looks. First of all, maybe it's because of the picture, but the black looks a bit gray and a bit flat. That's what I see, and it's a very hard thing to do well. I think it needs more highlights, but I also think it needs more black. So when I paint black, especially for Space Marines, what I like to do is most of the surface has to be pure black, like this. It should only be the edges. I know edge highlighting is boring, and I know it's not for everyone, and not everyone likes it, but it works very well for black armor, because it's very easy for the Space Marines to go into the gray territory, something like this. And look at that. I thought it was very flat and it needed more highlights, but when I added the black, suddenly it doesn't need more highlights. I think it's alright with that. We just need more black. Look at that. Looks flat and interesting. And now it looks better. So I will probably go around with pure black and doing stuff like that. So things like, and I would use probably a satin black for this. So something like a Badon black, because it's satin, it looks darker. So just do some lines here on the horns with pure black, just to make it look striated and, you know, for the enemy's pleasure. I did a sex joke. Okay. Something like this. I really think it makes it look better if you just go and blacken most of this with like sketch most of this with pure black. It looks too gray for me. If you want it to look black, which I think it's the case because it's an Emperor's Children. There you go. Something on that level. Yeah, yeah, I really like that. The rest looks fantastic. The pink is really good. It will, yeah, I really like the rest. It's just that the black looks, first of all, gray, and second of all, a bit flat. But once you add the black, it goes back into black, and I think it looks fantastic. Yeah. But again, very complicated piece to resolve, and I think you did it fantastically well. I really like the addition of these purples. Maybe you could add those purples. I like this. This purple is lovely, and I think you should add it more in more places of the skin. I think that's a good idea. Let me just do that. Sorry for people watching that are new. I do this. I don't really look at those pictures before. I try to give the advice without planning. It kind of works better for me. But I think if you add this purple into more of the skin, yes, I'm liking this. Just to create a bit more. Yes, look at that. Yep. I like this a lot. I know you did this with the airbrush. Looks like a super smooth airbrush look, which is great. You did a fantastic job with the airbrush, by the way. It's not easy to do this with the airbrush. People think that using an airbrush makes everything easier. I think they are full of shit. An airbrush is hard to use, and doing a good job with an airbrush is difficult. But yeah, I will add more of this, more like the face on everything. I want this purple everywhere. Yeah. I'm liking this. Yeah, this is 100% what I like. Yeah, because I want this in every single part of the skin. You can probably do this fairly quickly, by the way. There you go. Look at that. From this to this, I think it's a good change, and I will probably explore that, Alexander. But again, fantastic job. It's always impressive to see, even if it's army painting stuff. I think it looks fantastic. Good job. Let's move into the next one. This is Ricky, and I think Ricky is new on the review, and I wanted to share both views because this is a good lesson on how to do decals right, because this is a decal. It's not painted, but it looks painted because it's well integrated. It doesn't look like a decal. It looks good, and the reason is because he added all of this. Oh, sorry, I'm going to mute this. Yes. Okay, we're now done. He added this weathering onto the bottom of the shield, and that touch, just painting over your decals, is what makes them look realistic. So fantastic job there, Ricky. That is great touch. I think he said he added pigments into the blue paint to make it look more textured. I don't think you need to do that for this scale. That is a fantastic idea for something larger like a bust, but for 28mm, it just looks, the pigment looks too big. It looks like it's dirty, like that you had some dried paint on your brush or something like that. That's something that I wouldn't do. As for the advice, oh, he used my redhead painting video for the hair. Looks fantastic. Well done. What I would do personally is, I think this is painted with contrast paints or something in that vein, over a Sanifel probably, or something like that, maybe with some highlights. But there are some times where the paint just doesn't do a good job. Especially, you can see it here. All the fingers look. Let me just grab a brown. dark brown, something like that. There you go. Something like rhinoxide. Sometimes the paint or the washes don't do a good job, and you have to encourage them so they do whatever you want them to do. So what I would do probably is take some dark brown paint or some washes and just try to paint the fingers in. I know some minis don't have the fingers very well defined. This looks like it's the case, but you can probably just draw a line and try to, there you go, make that so you can see all of the fingers, because otherwise it looks like a ham and it's not a good look. You see what else we can find. I will probably do some more highlights on this pink. I think doing one more stage of highlights would be my advice for you. Try to push yourself into doing one more stage of highlights. Come on. Need more. Let me just... something like that. Yeah. Really? Maybe you have to go super bright. Yes. I think it needs just a tiny bit more highlighting, especially in areas like the pink cloth, which just looks a bit flat. And the skin, again, I'm going to be repeating myself here probably quite a bit. You need to add hues onto the skin, as we talked with the ogre. Something like Carbo Crimson, thinned down very well. It's ideal for that. The flesh doesn't look natural because she doesn't have hues. People have hues on the skin, so you need to add a bit of pink onto the cheeks and stuff like that. You can pick up a little bit of the nose, and then you have to highlight it back. Come on. There you go, like this. And you can see, I hope you can see that the additions make a difference. Same goes for, you can pick this kind of hue here, this, and just paint the lips with it. And again, you can just add a little bit of shine on the lips. Those kind of things really help with these minis. As for the war paint, that is complicated to do. It's something that I really need to work myself on doing it. But I will probably start with a darker blue and then highlight it. So we have this. I think that your camera is making this blue look ridiculously intense. But I will probably start with something like this kind of darker blue. And you paint that with the darker blue first. And then you take this super bright blue and just do the highlights with it volumetrically. Otherwise, if you don't highlight your war paint, it's not going to look as good. There you go. That will be my personal approach to that. And I really think, yeah, and I also think the skin needs a bit more contrast, both in terms of highlights and in terms of shadows. So let me just grab a shadow color for the skin really quickly. Something like this, I think it can work. You need to add a bit more shading into the skin. I don't know how you painted the skin, but I will probably, I honestly just like to add washes into my skin. I think it looks really good. I don't like this. I don't like you. Sometimes it's super hard to find a color with this system. I think this is going to work better. Oh yeah. I would like to see some shading in parts like here. Here, under the arm, stuff like that. And then some more highlights. This is something that it is complicated to get on camera because I would like to see this mini in person. Sometimes pictures makes this job a bit more difficult. So I would really would like to see that this mini in person so I can give you better feedback. But I think the skin needs a bit more highlighting. And a bit more shading too. You can probably just get away with a bit more shading, but I think it really benefits from both. But again, as I said, pictures are not usually kind to minis. Oh, another thing that I really like to add is some wood grain. I know this is very difficult, but I think this mini needs it. I'll probably start with a dark brown, and you can draw some lines with this. Okay. So now I need more opacity and I need this harder brush. This is something that takes a lot of practice, but I think it's a good practice to add to, first of all, gain brush control, which is something that we all need, and secondly, to create to create a bit more texture and a bit more interest in a very flat area. But again, I would really love to know how you painted the skin so I can give you better pointers, because it's hard with the picture itself. Because if I know how you did it, so don't hesitate to contact me through the Discord. Send me a message, and we can talk about this. We can talk about how you painted the flesh and what would be my approach, or what I would add onto that process so the result is better. But yeah, fantastic. I really like her, and this is what everyone should do with their decals. So paint over them. You really want to paint over your decals. So thank you. And you can see that he added the same weathering on the bottom of the cloak and everything. Fantastic job. This is great. So thank you very much, Ricky, and contact me and we can talk about that skin tones on the Discord server, please. let's move into the next one, and this is by Luke, and this is extremely funny. So let's just use a couple of bit of there you go, a little bit of adjusting so we can see better what's going on. This is super fun. This is one of the things that I love about Warhammer, is when people go to the extreme to make a joke or to have fun, and this is the perfect example. This is the Gob Rangers and the Full Metal Squigs. This is great. It's just, I love this. I really do. So we have a Power Rangers. It is painted. Super fun. I thought it was, yeah, that's super good fun. How good. So we have here homage to the Power Rangers, obviously, even with the freehand and everything is great. The skin tone on the gobos is original, but it's weird, but it works very well. Maybe the one that works less well is in the Pink Ranger, but obviously they are very similar, so that is not ideal. But the rest looks fantastic. I maybe just would add a teeny tiny touch of more of highlights onto the robes, just a little bit more. It's one of those things that is almost there, but I think I would probably add a bit more. Let me just, yeah, I think just in places like corners, I'm going to do the blue one because that's just funnier. Stuff like that, just a very tiny highlight extra, just some dots, just, you know, that final touch would be my advice for the normal Rangers. Same goes for the Red Ranger, which this looks like maybe why rather red. I would probably go into full Lugenath orange for the final highlight. This looks probably, this kind of looks like Lugenath orange probably. You can just add the final highlight. Yeah, I really think they need one more highlight. Just one more highlight to define everything better and to make them stand out a bit better. Yeah, the rest is really good, but I think the robes, except for the black one is just perfect. I think the black one is good as it is, but the rest one, the others, I think they do need a highlight. As for the metal squigs, this is a very original take on squigs, and also a very difficult one to assess because they look like metal squigs. So it really is very difficult to paint metal squigs and make them look good, and you have done it. So what can I tell you? This looks like they were painted metal, maybe pre-shaded, and then you did a layer of contrast over the top. That's how I would do it. The choice of colors is good. I mean, they look good. There's not much I can tell you. I really like that you added the OSL on the bottom matching. That's fantastic. Good, very good touch. I think I will probably, I'm not going to touch on the gobos, except for the occasional mold line. You need to be careful about that, especially when you're doing them in metallics with contrast paints, because it's going to make everything look more. It's going to show all your mistakes basically. I will probably add brighter hues here on the bottom, on the flames, with a brighter yellow. Let me just grab something like mood green or the likes, something like this. Let me just make this less opaque. I will probably try, you have a bit, it's a bit too dark on towards the bottom, so I will probably get this mood green and just paint the whole downside area with it, just like that, and then move into this super bright yellow. There you go, that's starting to look good. And then just move into dawn for the very, very final. This needs to be brighter. There you go. For the very final highlight here at the very bottom of the flames. Just like that. You can clearly see the difference from that to that. Yeah, just like that. Just mood green and dawn yellow in different mixes until you get to pure dawn yellow on the very bottom. That way I think it's a better result. And you added the OSL here at the bottom, and I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity that you didn't add OSL onto the fire, just like this. You don't need to do much. You just grab this, just on the edge here, just like that. What a difference. Yeah, I like that. From that to that, as you can see from my latest videos, I'm going more and more deeply into OSL with time, and it's a fantastic technique and it's super fun. And for the embers here, they need more highlights, and by highlights I mean in the recesses. So I'm going to take, what I would probably do is take pure white first and paint the very creases, leaving a little bit of this red showing. So something like this. Like this. Don't mind about blending here, that's not important right now. Just like that, you see? With pure white. Then you want to move into glazes, and I would suggest you use fluorescent colors, but you don't need to do. You can take a yellow and just glaze it. Oh, let me just undo that. It's too opaque. You have to glaze it over the white areas, just like that. And if you glaze it over the white areas, the yellow is going to look more intense than if you do it over the red. If you just try to do the same step as the white with the red, it's going to look less intense. There you go, there you go, there you go. Just glaze it carefully over the creases and over the white, and then you can return to your white and do a final touch in the very deepest parts, just like that. And look how much better and that looks, just like that. And of course you can take your oranges. You need to start with the reds. You need to start with the reds. Just glaze this red over the bottom here to darken down over here and here, and then you can move into your oranges and yellows and stuff like that, and keep on building this. Not until the pure yellow, but something like this is more than enough. And of course, if you do this, you kind of have to do it all over, or otherwise it's not going to look good. There you go. That really helps. You take the orange, you put it here towards the bottom, and there you go. Suddenly, that really makes a difference, doesn't it? Super a small touch. I think you should try it, because I think it's going to improve it quite a bit. And yeah, the rest I really like. I think the rest is fantastic. Work on the OSL a bit more. It's a great technique because it will give you a lot of understanding on light and how it interacts with the different surfaces and textures. And I will probably do one more highlight on the robes of everything except for the black ranger. The rest look, the black one looks good. The rest needs a bit more highlighting, in my opinion. But of course, if you submit it, I think that would be maybe because you value my opinion. But this is a great piece. I would love to see this in front of me on the table. So yeah, story building, fun. You know, that's I'm all in for this jazz. So yeah, fantastic job, Luke. So let's move into Poland. We are halfway there, and now we're on 41 minutes. This is going to be a long one. So this is Paul Blunt. Again, he was the second Paul in submit. His picture. So he has to have a surname. He wants to learn more NMM. And he wants kind of the feedback focused on the NMM bit. And the thing is, I think you need a bit more contrast. This is basically your darkest gray. I think you have to go darker than that. Oops. Like this. I think you need to go way darker than this. Something like this. Let me just check. One bigger brush. Oops. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Wait a second. I have to do some preparation. There we go. Now we should be ready to go. Yes. So the highlight patterns are alright, but I really think you should have more contrast. So don't be afraid. It has too much midtones. Go, maybe. And then you should probably work on adding secondary reflections onto everything. So for example, here, this is close to this other piece. So I think adding a little bit of this on here helps convey that feeling. No, not there. But this is how would I paint this? Let me just grab this dark gray. Probably like this. Oh yeah. And this, yeah, it has to be right up to the edge here if you want to do this. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, better. So you want to add the reflection from the gold piece on top, just like that. Yes, I like that. Then maybe more secondary reflections, probably a highlight here. This is hard surface to render, really. Just paint everything with this gray. So I can take pure white. you kind of need to add these reflections, otherwise it's going to look weird. Yeah, something like that, yeah. You really need to play with those secondary reflections to sell it, otherwise it's not going to work at all. So I added this reflection here, which I like, and then I added some glints of light onto the darker bits, and that really helps it. So you need to go way darker, way more contrast. You can see the difference in contrast. This is you should go much darker, and almost up to pure black, and then up 100% up to pure white, and then add some secondary reflections on the darker side. There is no rule for this. It's something that you have to feel. That's why I was doing it, because if I tell you, I just can't. I have to be doing it. The gold is better, but you need more highlights. Let me just grab it here, and something that is a bit yellower. There you go. You want your edges to be brighter. Just like that, yeah. And again, you probably want to add those glints of light artificially in places like those. And again, more contrast. But these are very difficult to paint. I think this is my opinion is these dwarfs are not easy to paint. So don't be too discouraged about this. Oops. Yeah. You see the difference? You need, first of all, more contrast, and second of all, play with the secondary reflections, which is the hardest bit probably for most people. Is metal, every single light source, every single surface around it is going to get glints of light everywhere. The blades are quite a bit better than the rest, so I'm really happy about you should be happy about the blade. You can still probably add those glints, especially if you want like a super shiny. You can see those small glints kind of helps, doesn't it? Look at that. It makes it look more shiny, more polished, which is probably what you want with dwarfs. And the same goes for the undersides. You want to pick up these lines here with the highlights, because they are metal. They're going to be picking up everything. Look at the difference of those lines. Really makes for the NMM to jump out at you. Same goes, for example, with the underside here. You know, small touches, and here, but here you can probably want to add a bit of the blue, and here I think you added a bit of the I don't know if it was intentional or you spill out, but that's what you want basically. So boom 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 boom. Let me just center on this side here. Yeah, that's it. But again, very difficult to paint these dwarfs. Yeah, that was a hard thing to figure out, but yeah, that's what I would do personally for my style. And again, this is, for example, looks super gray. You want pure white to pure black, and just try to render it that way. And I think his face needs a bit more work as well. I understand for a team you don't want to paint his eyes. I totally get it, but I will probably add a bit more highlights on the face myself. Probably on the side here, I'm going to pick up brighter highlight with some, as I said, with the ogre, some yellows. Just pick up stuff like the bridge of the nose here on the side and on the eyebrows, stuff like that. Not much. I think you added a bit of red. That is good. I'll probably add more. Just go back to super thin. Yeah, I think his nose being pink here helps with the dwarfiness of it all. Oops. Also his ears. Ears are usually redder than the rest of the face. And then you can just get this highlight and do it again. Need more. There you go. That's it. There you go. Yeah, I think that face, even if you don't want to paint the eyes, which I totally get, I think that face is better. And on the NMM, yeah, not an easy task, but you need to way more contrast to begin with in both sides. The gold is better than the silver, but again, then add the secondary reflections and that kind of stuff is going to help to sell the metallic effect. But again, very hard piece to render well in NMM. In my opinion, there are better minis, but I really appreciate you trying to push yourself. That is the way to go. I always say it, so I'm really proud, and I really think you're going to nail it down. So keep on doing it. And thank you, Paul Plant. Let's move into another Liam. This was Liam number 1, and this is Liam number 2. And again, this is Liam Jones because he was the second one. And here we have some BattleTech goodness for all your BattleTech aficionados. None of this 40k rubbish. So, and he was asking how I would highlight all of these panels, and there are a lot of panels in these minis. So what I would do is, just because I am insufferable, is just to edge highlighting. It just works very well for this kind of things. And you're going to probably hate me for this, but that would be my approach. It's just, I think it needs all of these edge highlights. I kind of like the gradients that you have going on, so I would just probably concentrate on edge highlighting everything until you wish you were dead. The edge highlighting. These BattleTech minis have so many edges. Much more than a Space Marine. This is crazy, it's all edges. But you need to pick even here in the middle, even these edges here going across, these ones here. Keep on all of those gradients that you have done. This, I like the gradients with the edge highlight. I think it looks fantastic. So I would keep them and just add these edge highlights that you're going to totally hate. But I think it does make for a better result. You can see, first of all, makes the mini easier to read, and second of all, this makes it look better. And then I will take an even brighter color than this and just pick up, whoa, what was that? Then just pick up the corners here. That would be my approach. That would be how I would paint this. And you know the best thing is you are going to be developing your brush control while you're doing this. Because this is how you get brush control, is trying to paint thin edge highlights. That's it. That's the only secret. That's the secret technique to getting good with brush control, is painting edge highlights as thin as you can make them. As thin as you can make them. And that's the only thing you need to do to this mini. The rest looks good, the gradients look good. You got this blue here, so we're going to get brighter than this and do thin edge highlights. There you go, there you go, there you go. Just like that. It's boring, it's tedious, but it looks very good. Especially for this kind of minis. Battletech minis really benefit from a nice edge highlight. Like this. Yeah, it was. I wish I could say more. I could give you a bit more of an advice. If you want to ask me for colors, just pop into the Discord and ask me, and I will tell you which colors I would use. But that's it. The only secret to paint the Battletech minis is do this gradient that you have already here, and then edge highlight it. That's it. That's basically it. I really like, for example, you can get this approach that you have done, which is a bit more like more natural, less fantastic, so to speak. Or you can get, let me just grab one of these bright reds. There you go. There you go. There you go. Or you can, for example, do all the panels shading in the same direction. For example, one thing that works very well for Battletech minis is if you start. Let me just paint the whole panel black, like dark. And I will give you. I make a demonstration. I will keep the edge highlights just for. Because they are already there, so why not? So you have this set of panels here, and there are two approaches. The one that you made, which is great, is very volumetric and very nice, or you can do the next approach, which is you make the gradients dark on the top, light on the bottom. Let me just. On all of the panels, you have to be uniform with this. Just like that. You see, you do that on all of the panels, that gradient from the darkest to this, and then your edge highlighting is going to look amazing. It's a lot of work though. There are a lot of panels here. So both approaches are okay, but I really think you need to add those edge highlights, otherwise it's not going to look complete, so to speak. But yeah, those are the two different approaches. The one that you did, which has every single thing into account, like counting as a whole volume, and then volume that volumetric highlight that you've done, then edge highlighted. Or then you can go panel by panel and do that gradient from dark to light, dark on top, light on to the bottom. It's going to look more shiny, maybe more stylistically highlighted, so to speak. So that one, thank you, Liam, for your information. It's always nice to see variety in the minions submitted in Battletech. I think it's the first Battletech mini that I review, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I have a friend that really loves Battletech. Let's move into the next one, and this was kind of a pickle because I had to edit the picture so much to get a more accurate representation of what I have, and I don't think it's 100% nailed down. So when pictures are not the best, this is the original picture. It's so hazy, so I tried to cut down all of the haze with some Photoshop, and this is the peak of my Photoshop skills. I can't do anything else with this. So a couple of things. So the armor looks like it's NMM. It isn't. It's true as it's normal metallic paints, but he said he went a bit too far with the monitoring varnish. It happens to everyone. It happened to me as well. So I'm not going to touch on the armor because I'm sure it looks lovely. Just matte varnish can really do some. If you go overboard with it, it can really make for a pain in the ass. But things that I really like is he followed my OSL runes tutorial. He did a great job. That is as good as mine. Fantastic job. You really did a good job. The gems are also really nice. I'm sure they are. I think you applied gloss varnish over them. Maybe. I think I see like a glossy highlight here. Don't do it. You don't need it. You are already simulating the gloss effect with that white highlight. Don't apply gloss varnish on top. It's not needed. Things I would probably improve. I think his face. This is a very challenging face to paint. I have this mini. I've seen this face many times, and it's a hard mini. It's a hard face to paint. Oh, damn Windows key. I will probably. This is one of the other cases I would love to see this mini on my hands, so I can give a better advice. But I think you went too dark with the shadows. So this is the color shadow here. I think I wouldn't go any more dark than this. Let me just see if we can make something that will work. If we reduce the shadows a little bit, make it a little bit less contrasty, which can also be because of the picture. Could be because of the picture. Yeah, I think you went. Again, I'm not sure, but I would probably think you went a bit too hard with the shadows. They are a bit too harsh. So this is, if you went a little bit lighter with the shadows, it would probably look better. Not that anyone can make this face look better. It's just not a good face. But yeah, and again, I painted over the original, so yeah, I was stuck with it. So let me see if we can. Yeah, from this to this, more or less. I will probably try to start with a lighter flesh tone. If you're painting from pure from the darkest color app, I will base coat it with a lighter flesh tone to begin with. That's what I do. But my approach is usually nowadays for my army, I just spray him with Wraithbone, do all the contrast layers first, so get him on flesh for the face, yellow for the rare yellow robes that I do on my elves, and then just move on. But that would be my advice: try to for the next elf, do a softer shading on the skin. The metal looks good, apart from the varnish on top, but that's just for topic for another day. The blue hair Probably try to soften those highlights as well. And here maybe reduce them a little bit so they are more concentrated onto this fold here. You can just pick up the darker blue and just glaze it a little bit on the edges here. Something like that. Yeah, I like that much better now. And then you can add one more highlight. My approach will be to add one more highlight here. And one more highlight here. There you go. There you go, there you go, there you go. That's it. And there is hair here as well. There you go. There you go. And again, we cannot do because I've been painting over the original again. I'm that intelligent, but yeah, the rest looks good. My only advice would be that to you don't need to put gloss varnish over your gems. I don't like it personally, and I will highlight the hair on the helmet a little bit more, and I would soften the shadows on the face a little bit. They are a bit too much, a little bit too much. But again, this is not a good face, so you've done a good job. But for the next elves, try that. Try starting with the lighter flesh tone. But yeah, I like that. Very nice job on the sword, Norman. I really like it. You did a fantastic job. He was worried about the OSL. I think that is perfect. It's just as good as mine. As clear as that. And I really like your basing with the flowers and everything. This is going to be a killer army. Let's move into the next one. We're going to Chelsea. Always an adventure with Chelsea. She paints really well, and he is getting better and better with time. And she said on the email that she finds it hard to go back to a smaller scale after painting a bust. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Different people like different scales, and I think you've found that you like bust better than a small scale, and that can happen. So going back to something that you're not so fond of, it's difficult. I know that feeling very well. It's the same feeling I have when I'm painting a bust. I just don't like it. Things I really like about this is the effort on the OSL. First time doing OSL, we're going to touch into that. And I really like this red mouth surrounded by the bluish skin. She added hues of different pinks and reds onto the bluish skin, which really helps make everything looks super nice. And overall, a fantastic piece. I think this is one of those pieces that I would like to see on person, because this fire looks a little bit bland, and I don't know if it's because of the picture or because of the colors used, but I'm going to touch into the OSL because we have what you did basically stick this yellows and just apply it here. So you want to start, when you're doing this kind of dramatic OSL from the bottom, you want to have this darkened down first. So I would take a dark red first, a saturated dark red, something like this, like this, and I will glaze onto the whole of the surfaces that you want to have light glowing from below. Let me just grab this and this. Okay, let's see if that works. Oh, that's too big. Yes, I will start with the red, darker red. I think we can move into, Yes. So all of the surfaces that you want to have the glow coming from below need to be dark before you apply the glow. Otherwise, it's not going to look as good. And then you can start with the glowing thing. So then, once you have the area darkened down, you can start adding the glow effects. I don't know which colors you use to paint that, but I think maybe it's the picture. They look super desaturated, and you cannot have light that it's desaturated. You have to have saturated light. There you go. There you go. There you go. Something on this vein probably. Yeah, that looks better. And again, I've painted over the original. But yeah, you see, if you darken down the surfaces, you can add more light. This is, I didn't do a good job, but you get the point. If you have highlights like light blue, and you just glaze some oranges on top, it's not going to work. You want those areas darkened down. What a lot of people do, especially people that have an airbrush, is they paint everything, and then they just grab the airbrush from the direction they want that OSL to be, and they spray a dark color first. They darken everything down, and then they spray the OSL color. Vince did a video about this, fantastic video about this, like super dramatic light from one side, and on his latest video. One of the latest videos of Vince, so go and check it out. It's Vince Venturella. You all know who Vince is. He did a video about this, and you can see his whole approach there, so he can make sure that they have enough separation between both sources of light. And apart from that, you probably want more highlights on this beast. I will probably move into some light greens, some pastel greens for this, just because we are adding. We will be adding a bit of yellow onto the highlights, just a teeny tiny bit of this pastel green on the top. It's not going to shift, it's not going to make it look green, but it's going to add more light into the mini. Look how much light that adds, how much intensity. There you go. Okay, you get the point. I'm an idiot. There you go, look at that. If you are adding that green, adds a little bit of yellow, which makes it a bit more intense. That's basically it. But yeah, the rest is really good. I really like it, and I will go and check Vince's video on that. And I would like to know which colors you use for this, because it looks weird to me. They look desaturated, and I think you need to go very, very saturated for those. The way that I would paint this, if you want this to be like embers, I'm guessing, I'm not sure, as we did with which one was it? I think it was Look. Yeah, it was Look. It's this approach here. So I will paint everything black, then just paint with white, or just paint everything white and just paint with white the crevices, or just do a wash with white. Vince just did a video on this. I just remember, I was watching that video earlier today. Vince did a video on a scorched earth, which I think is what you're trying to do here. Just follow that video. He explains it all very well. You just put white into the places where you want more light. You just glaze with your fluorescent colors, and that's it. Super easy. That was it. Let me just make this more opaque. And he uses white ink mixed with flow improver to make a wash, and that goes into all of the crevices super easily. And then he goes with the black on top. It's fantastic. Go and check. As with all Vince's video, it's fantastic. So you cannot go with a white. You do a wash with a white ink, and then you go and take. You have to go with saturation here. You cannot go desaturated. And then you just glaze your colors on top. That's too much. What an idiot. Just glaze it, and glaze it. With fluorescent paint or whatever you want to use, or bright oranges and yellows. As I proved with my avatar video, you can get the same effect using fluorescents and not using fluorescents. So they are not a must, but they do help on making the process faster. And then saturated reds as well. Saturated. Saturation is the name of the game. You cannot have fire without that it's desaturated. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. On that vein. But yeah, that is the main idea. Vince has 2 videos about this. One for the super dramatic OSL from one side. In this case, it will be from the bottom. Go and check his approach for that, and he just made a video on Scorched Earth that is going to help you. But again, I really like it. Chelsea, it's really good. I would really like to see you paint more busts, so I really would like to, just to see if that inspires you to do just such a good job that you did with the orc bust. I think your scale is more on the bust side than on the small scale side. I think there's going to be if you want to just paint, I think that would be the ideal place for you to be. But again, you can add more highlights onto the skin. It's not needed. I really like the overall vibe with this guy. So yes, Chelsea, thank you very much for that. Let's move into the next one, which is Christian. And oh boy, Christian got a new camera, and no more crappy phone pics from him. And you can see all of the detail, even at 200%. You can see how good the picture is. And I didn't have to do anything to this picture, unlike with the previous entries by him. They had to color grade because they weren't good. This is fantastic. And he did. Look at that face. It's a great face. I really like this. This is a fantastic entry. The internal glow is really good. The bone is really good. The armor is really good. I don't know what to tell you. This is a fantastic job, Christian. Yeah, this is peak, and he added the weathering onto the armor that I was suggesting in previous videos, and yeah, I don't know what to tell you. There's very little I can say about this mini. Probably. Okay, let me grab. Do we have another one of those? Let me. What I would do to this, because this is fantastic. This is a great conversion, by the way. Christian has an incredible team, Blood Bowl Undead team, that are all ridiculous conversions. I know what I would do with this. I would probably, if you're going to play of this ghosty ghost look that you've done here with these colors, I will probably do that all over, because this blue stuff here doesn't look like it's glowing, and like it's, I will treat this like fire, basically, if that's what I'm trying to say. So maybe let me grab a more intense blue than this, and I need a bigger brush. I will probably apply this into the recesses of this blue smoke, or whatever this is, this spectral glow, and leave the tops of the faults. It's very difficult to paint here. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me go back while I do this so you don't see his email and stuff like that, and let me grab one of the extra pictures that he sent me, so I can show you more from the back, because there's not much I can tell you about that from that angle. So I hope you don't mind the little yes, I think this picture is going to do well. This picture is going to serve us very well indeed. So let me grab this, dropped it into Photoshop here, and we're going to be back into normal service. Normal service will soon be renewed here. Okay, I think we are done, and we can go back to this, and we have this view, this angle here of this very, very lovely gradient. I think this is oils. I think Christian likes to paint mostly with oils. And what I would do is just invert this. Treat it like, I like this ghosty effect here, but I think I kind of, oops. Okay, yeah. I kind of want to turn this into a, you know, the yeah, kind of like, and kind of digging this into the crevices to emphasize that glow that you are playing with on his face. You can continue that, and you can just grab this. Yes, you can keep that here onto the thin tendrils and stuff like that. I really like that, but I think, oops, my camera is shaking. But I think it will like, this is the only thing I would probably suggest you doing, because the rest is really good. Yeah, the overall the armor is perfect. The overall glow is fantastic. Yeah, I would just try to keep that inside glow theme going all over this guy. It's a very hard thing to judge. Look at this. This is fantastic. It's really good. Really good on the glow. You missed one spot here. There you go. There you go. I'm going to build upon that. Yeah. But yeah, fantastic job. You're making my job very, very difficult, Christian. I'm going to have to ban you from the review altogether if you keep doing stuff like this. Yeah, I really like everything here. The cloth here, maybe it's a bit not sure what I'm looking at. Kind of vibe. If you get what I'm saying, you probably just go back, because I don't think you want the cloth to be glowing. Or this little bit of cloth here, because this glow is kind of coming from inside of it. So maybe just define this little bit so it reads better. Yeah, I like that. But yeah, overall, yeah, I mean, you are getting to a point that you are perfecting this style to a level that I can't really tell you much. Nice weathering, nice chipping, nice internal glow effect. It's pretty much perfect and really nice. I kind of want to see if you could do what I was talking about with the spectral effect, so it looks like it's glowing from the inside as well. Yeah, kind of want to see that, maybe. But yeah, what can I tell you? This is amazing. Nice work, Christian. And yeah, you made me look bad with that review, because it was shit basically. And moving into Andy B, and this mini is not shit. It's in fact amazing. It's an elder to begin with, which is always better than everything else. And we have a very lovely BL10, whatever this is called now. The name changes all of the time, and I really like it. This is a very volumetric style, which I really appreciate seeing. And it's really well executed, very nice, great gradients all together. The only thing I'm missing personally is some edge highlights, because you have some edge highlights on the bottom panels, but you're missing things like the edge highlights here at the knee pads and stuff like that, but that's minimal. And I would think this cloth looks a bit flat, so I think it needs a bit more shading. Especially, I'm not going to do that shit again. Especially here onto the top here. You can go more aggressive here, where it meets the cloth, and you can apply this shading here. And once we have that shading done, we can go back to our nice pink, and we can do a highlight onto the bottom there. Maybe let's just try and see if that works for this piece of cloth. There you go, and there you go. To kind of tie with what we're talking about with the naturalistic looking cloth, with the pirate dwarf from, I can't remember the name, sorry, but we kind of talk about this as the bottom here should be catching a bit of light, something like that. Maybe not, maybe it doesn't work with this piece of cloth in particular. We can erase it if we don't like it. I have that privilege. There you go. I think it works better on this as on the bottom. Let me just try that. I'm not going to give up. So we get this pink, and oh yeah, that looks better there. Just on the bottom here. There. I like that. That looks good. The gems, I'm going to touch on the gems. I think you need a bit more red. Especially you can bring the red up and leave a lot more, a little less black. And then I don't know which colors you want to use to highlight it. Let me just, but I think you need one intermediate step there. So let me just grab a brighter red. There you go, and you can go like this. And you can go up, even up to almost up to this white spot there. Just have a bit more, less opacity there. You can be more aggressive with your highlights, is what I'm trying to tell you here. you can see the difference. It really needs that extra highlight, and don't be afraid to edge highlight the gem just a little bit on top. Really helps sell that gem effect. And another thing I want to touch, which that it came straight up to me, is you did super nice gradients here on the sword, but you don't have the edge highlight, and I think you kind of need those edge highlights. So to me, oh, it doesn't work. Oh yeah, of course it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. There you go. I think for this kind of swords, you need the edge highlights going on the middle and on the edges. Otherwise, I know it's, especially this one, I painted these swords myself. I know how difficult they are to edge highlight in the middle, but I think it looks better. That's my personal opinion. But you might not have the same opinion, especially. But I really like them on the edge. Otherwise, it doesn't look like an edge. That's like that. There you go. Boom, 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 boom. And yeah, I can, now that I see it with a bit more perspective, yeah, I do like this. That look better with a small highlight on the bottom of the crease. Makes it look more realistic and better, in my opinion. It's my personal opinion, of course, as with everything here. But the rest looks really good. This is a cracking army. If this is for an army project, I really like the basing. I think Anton really looks good with this deserty kind of basing. Suits them very well. And I think you highlighted your tufts. I think you did. Good job. Highlight your tufts. Let's move into, thank you very much, Andy. This is a fantastic piece, and it's always good to have an elder into the mix. Makes my job much nicer. Let's move into Peter, and he has a heavily converted Chaos Space Marine here. Very hard mini to photograph. I can tell you that. He's leaning forwards. This is the best picture of the bunch, and the conversion is fantastic. We are going to go back into what we have been talking about. Seems like the theme for this video is hues and adding values and interest into the skin, so we're going to touch that later. But one thing I really encourage you to do, in my opinion, makes everything looks better for this kind of stuff, is paint the inside of these things black, like the Melta kind of thing. Really helps, really helps. For the skin, it just needs, again, it needs something, it needs hues. So I'm going to go to a purple, and I'm going to add this purple onto the parts that connects with his helmet. Let me just turn down the opacity here a lot. We're going to glaze this, essentially a bigger brush. Oops, not that big. There you go. I'm going to add this purple on here onto the back, like that. And I'm going to turn this into a magenta. Darker magenta. There you go. And thinning it down. I'm going to add hues onto the cheeks, onto the nose, as with everything. I know he now looks like he's drunk. We're going to take care of that in a minute. And we're going to take this highlight color. There you go. And highlight that. Again. Just going back with that highlight takes away that drunk look. Just paint the lips as well. And again, Going back with the highlight on those. That purple might be a bit too much. Kind of like it, personally. It's very Chaos Space Marine-y, but you can just use the same red. But yeah, I like that. I know how you painted the eye, but I do like to paint the eyes. Let me just show a way that I love to paint as Chaos Space Marine's eyes. I just painted black. This is the easiest way to paint eyes. I just painted pure black, and then just take white and just do a small dot. Just like that. Looks awesome for Chaos Space Marines. Makes them look possessed, makes them look like bad guys, which is what you want. More things, yes. Just take a look. And I think, just take a look at the general picture of the guy. Yeah, I think you can just highlight it a tiny bit more, or be at least more consistent, because this is not in the picture, but it is in the rest of the other pictures. I just used one for the review, with a few exceptions. But you know how you painted it. The edge highlights on the armor in general are very good, but here in the backpack, I think you kind of went like, I don't care anymore, which I totally understand, because I've painted Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines. I've painted one of these backpacks, and it's a pain in the ass. But you need to continue all those edge highlights and be consistent. Pick up all of the edges, like this one with your thick edge highlight, and then go back to your thin edge highlight, and then pick the thin edge highlight, and you know, all that deal. It's a pain in the ass, but it kind of needs it. You kind of have to just grind through all of that suffering. Yeah, you kind of have to do that. And then I go into, what do we get, like a blue purpley color, something like that. I'm going to thin it down, not that's the opacity, thin it down a lot, and you can add a bit of these purpley blue hues onto this. Am I painting something? What am I doing? Yeah, you can add these purpley blue hues into this dead skin, stuff like that. Some cool details to add into this skin if you kind of want to try to do freehand is try to add a tattoo, like the remnants of a tattoo. Let's see if I can find a color. Tattoos kind of tend to turn into this kind of color here. There you go. And you can freehand something like an Aquila or something like that if you want. I think that is cool and fun. If you freehand, or in a way, I'm going to freehand an Inquisition symbol, something like this. Adding this kind of details into piece of skin makes it look fun, but that's the kind of things that you can add. For example, I think it looks rad personally, and again, adding hues into the skin, purples into the back where it's all the mechanical stuff, the pinks details. Try to paint the eye that way super easy. It's just eyes on easy mode. That's the cool thing about this Chaos dudes. But yeah, I really like this. It's a fantastic piece. Just try to be consistent with your edge highlights all across the armor. Really makes a difference. Because if you leave some edges without highlighting, it kind of looks incomplete. But the rest of it looks good. It's a very cool conversion with a lot of pieces. You have some chain here, some bones. You added this piece of skin with green stuff, which is fantastically well done. And yeah, really good. I like it. Things you can add. Maybe if you want to go overboard, you can add some glow effects on some of these skulls. Maybe. Let's just do it. Why not? Let's just grab a green. How you don't mind, but I kind of feel like it could be cool if you add some mood green into the recesses of the eyes of the skulls. And maybe send more into, there you go, down yellow into the middle here. Yeah, something like that. I think that looks cool, and that's a bit a cool touch overall on the soldier, but it's just optional. Oh, I know what we can do. We can add some scorch effects onto the plasma thingy here. That's easy. You grab a purple. I like to use Ruchi Violet for this. And you can just glaze the Ruchi Violet onto the, or something like Nagorth Knight works very well as well. You grab this and you put the, I think this is the order. I'm not sure now. I'm probably going to do this badly, but we will see. Okay, let me just check. I have to check it out now. So oh yeah, it's purple, then blue. Oh no, it's okay. Let me just see if I can find it. Oh, I see. It's yellow first. Yellow, then red, then purple. Okay. So the purple blue goes onto the very end. That was it. I know that I was missing something. You can take a blue and glaze it here. Where's the blue? That's not blue. That is blue. And then you take a red, and you need to use like transparent paints for this, but it really works well. And as you already have this kind of goldy yellow, that's it. And it kind of fits with his face as well, which I like. Kind of, I like it. So yeah, that is cool, I think. So yeah, try if you want to increase, add details like the tattoo onto the skin, here different hues onto his face, the eyes printed in this very simple way, and this scorched metal effect onto the barrel, that kind of thing. I think it helps quite a lot. So let's move into the next one. Is this next one? Yeah, it's Joffrey. Yeah, this is next one. And Joffrey here starts by saying that he is a tabletop painter. Let me crop this so we don't have that much image. That he's a tabletop painter, like a normal level. And dude, this is not tabletop quality. This is way beyond tabletop by a huge margin as well. You are well beyond that. What a beautiful dwarf. I like everything about it, and it's a dwarf, so that is something to be said. The TMM on the axe, you ask how you would do it on the axe. This is one way, you did well. The other way is doing the gradient from light here to dark here, and from light here to dark on the plane. That's another way of doing it, but you did it in a way that I like. It looks good. The only thing I don't like is that the foot of the dwarf doesn't connect with the dragon. That is bothering me, and I don't know how you can fix it. But it just can't have that floaty leg syndrome. like he is afraid of touching that dragon, which he just killed. So things that I would like to see, that I would like, first of all, trying to fix that foot, of course, but I think most importantly, he just killed a dragon, and the axe is not full of blood. It bothers me. So, whoops. I would just take blood for the blood gut. You don't need anything else really, and just add. Oops, what I'm doing? Paint, new layer. I will. What? Down Photoshop. Okay, it's just. Oh crap. Let me find a nice deep red. There you go. You don't want to go overboard with the blood. It's not working. I don't like this. There you go. That's the kind of red we want. You don't have to go overboard. You don't have to destroy everything, but just a little bit of blood on the just like this. You have to be careful. Just do some lines, like he just chopped his head off. Something like this. Some lines. You kind of have to draw with the blood for the blood god as well. You can add some stuff here, some droplets, stuff like that. Something like this. I think that adds. It helps tell the story. It's not. I mean, he just chopped this dragon head off. It would be a lot more blood, but you don't want to cover your miniature in blood. So I think just a little hint of blood helps with everything. And you, again, as we've been talking about in this whole episode, adding hues to the skin really helps. His red nose really sells. The only thing I will probably, I think he needs a bit more highlighting on the skin. So you want this for your top highlight color. I will try and make it like this. And I'm going to turn the opacity, seems to be alright. I'm going to make it a bit softer. And you can add this into the top sections of each volume, something like this, especially here on his face, stuff like that. Let me just say, painting these old metal minis to a good standard, that is very difficult. And Joffrey here did a fantastic job, Joffrey. I don't know if you messed up your name, if you said another name before. If I did, sorry. It's Joffrey who painted this. And I think it does need a bit more highlights onto the face, especially because he has so much beard that it's really hard to focus the attention on his face, and really should be a lovely face. Look at that. You can go way brighter with the contrast there. And then you can get some. You know what would be cool? If you got some dark browns, and you try to paint the hair on his chest. That would be cool. Make it very small and a bit more opaque, and we can paint some belly hair. Some lines of hair onto his belly. Very carefully. That looks super cool. I like that. I like those kinds of details. I really enjoy. I mean, it fits with his nipple ring and everything. It's just this is this guy's vibe. You can also paint a little bit onto his arm. Just like very thin lines. You can practice this and try to do it. It's something super cool if you can pull it off, and I think it it adds is those kind of details that add that extra flair into a miniature. But yeah, overall, I think you missed. Let me just go and check, because I think this is his lip. Let me just grab a darker color here, and then we can correct it. I think this is his lip, his lower lip. Looks like it's sculpted here. Yes, that looks like a lip. Yes, that's a lip. Yeah. Then you can highlight it as you did with the nose and add the extra touch there. And there, look at that. That lip really was missing. It was really hard to spot, by the way. But yeah, overall, fantastic job. You are not a tabletop painter. I am afraid to tell you, Joffrey. You are well beyond tabletop quality and well into high tabletop and the beginning. I can see the making of a display painter here, because you really have a good understanding of light and of contrast, and I really like it. Yeah. Try to solve this fit issue, which I think is not going to be easy, but it's really bothering me, and I don't know how to fix it personally. But it looks weird. But apart from that, fantastic job. Add a bit more. Don't be afraid of adding, highlights onto the skin, especially into the top edges of its volume instead of into the middle, which have some kind of a tendency of. We do have that kind, but you have to be more aggressive with the top. You can do way more brightest highlight than what you have. Paint that lower lip if you can, kind of missing. I would add a little bit of blood into the axe. The axe is painted really well. And if you feel brave, try to paint that hair into his arms and into his belly. I think it's fun, and I think it's going to be an awesome dwarf. This is a cool dwarf, and this comes from an elf painter. So take that for what it is. And this is the mini that caused the delay in us starting this review, because this was sent in a very small quality. It was like 12K. It was like this, and zoom like 100% was this. So when I zoomed, it was a pixely mess. So I was waiting to see if Christopher will send me the nice picture, and he did, and we can review it now. And I'm super glad that he did, because this is an awesome looking character with his awesome looking eagle doggos. And things I like the color combo on these eagle doggy things. These tiger stripes, really well done, by the way. This does look like a tiger, with these super bright pinky purple feathers. Fantastic. When you are painting fantasy miniatures, go nuts with it. That's the best way of doing it. That is the kind of things that you can do when you're painting fantasy that you cannot do when you're painting something like historical minis. So it's better to embrace it. Let me see if I can brighten this a little bit more. Let me just make it. Yeah, that looks more realistic. It had a little bit of yellowy hue, a greenish yellowy hue. And let's see if I can adjust the levels a little bit so we can see it better. There you go, just slightly. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So things I like. He said, Christopher, that he's trying to move away from only doing dry brush and trying to do some complicated things. You can see it on the cloak that he painted using my red cloak tutorial, and it looks amazing. Looks very smooth, by the way. Good job there. And we can see a little bit of dry brushing onto the armor, which is perfectly fine. But you also see some edge highlighting here, which is good. The thing with a dry brush is that, to me at least, is
You can use it, it's a perfectly valid technique. My only thing is don't end with only a dry brush. If you do a dry brush, try to add in an edge highlight afterwards, sorry. Maybe do a dry brush, then wash it, then do another highlight with the same color that you did that dry brush. Add more on top of the dry brush. Don't end with it. And as long as you don't end with a dry brush, you're going to have a fantastically good result. For example, you can clearly see that he did some edge highlights on top of that dry brush, and it looks fantastic. What I would do personally is I'm going to concentrate here on this doggos because I like the guy very much. So I would do probably one extra highlight onto the eyes to make them look really glowy. You can probably take, let me just see if I can read this bright blue and just put it around the edge of the eye, just like that. Make the eyes look super glowy. And I will try to paint the inside of the mouth a bit pinkier. Let me just grab something pinky. There you go. Something like that, and a bit darker. Oops. That's basically how I painted the mouths of my lizardman monsters, and I kind of like it. So it's personal bias for me. I like it. Great job with the fur texture. It's a very brave thing to do. I really appreciate it. I will probably see that you did a purple, then a lighter dry brush with another purple. I would probably do what I was just talking about and take something like Druchii Violet, something like this, and wash it over these, thin it down, of course, with some medium, and just wash it so it gets into the crevices, and then go back with the lighter purple and do another highlight with the brush just to touch up. So I will thin my Druchii Violet a lot, probably 4 parts medium to 1 part Druchii Violet, so we can shade more. So it doesn't tint the surfaces as much. I haven't tried my Army Painter purple tone, but I think I have a very good experience with the Army Painter red tone from painting the Avatar. I was surprised how good that was, and of not tinting the surfaces too much. So that can also be an option if you don't want to make your highlights to lose all your highlights work, but you want to increase the contrast of the shadows. So I would probably, but having not having tested it, I would probably just do a wash, and then just take this highlight color and just go back and just paint some small lines on the tips of each feather, if you want. I mean, this is a character, so that's maybe something you can aspire to for the characters, and then and it will look a bit more contrasty. I think that purpley thing need a bit more highlight, as I think it does this. I think this needs a final highlight with some silver, just like that. You see, you pick that, you pick that, you pick that online. There you go. You don't need anything else, but that final highlight with the silver, the same way that you did on here, by the way, which is edge highlighted very well and very thin, very nice. Yeah, I really like this guy. And let me just reiterate, I'm going to take this dark color and just let me reiterate. Oh, not like this. Let me change the brush. This looks like this, more or less opacity. So, for example, something that I did for my Chaos Boys, the Chaos Warrior that I painted for the tutorial, is I had this darkened down a little bit, and then I went with my highlight color and then did this same highlight that I've been talking about since the beginning. Oops. Which is here on the crevice, here just towards the bottom. There you go. Maybe. You know what? I liked it before. But you can maybe add this shading here. Maybe I think that they did need that a little bit of shading. And you can add a little bit more highlights. There you go. To here. So it's a bit brighter, but it might be because of the picture. But yeah, oh, I know what I want to talk about. It's the leather. I know what I want to talk about. You can highlight the leather a little bit more. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Opaque. And harder. Okay. Yeah. A little bit more edge highlighting on the leather. Really helps. I think with leather it's something that really helps, and you can go brighter and do more if you want, as always. Then I kind of feel like this should be gold. This I don't know what this is, but it does look like one of those symbols that the Stormcast have. So I kind of think that this should be painted gold. And then I will probably try to highlight his helmet a little bit more, especially here towards the top surface and here on the cheeks. Maybe mix a little bit of the gold with a little bit of silver, just to try and increase it. And you know what you can do to tie him with the doggos is paint his eyes blue. I don't know how deep his eyes are, so that this may not be a possibility, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just paint his eye blue and paint the edge of the eye blues, and then just go to the white and paint it in the center. Kind of like that for the Stormcast. I think it looks good, but that may not be doable. It depends on how his eyes are. But this kind of details, even if it's a nice basic paint job, if you paint those glowing eyes, which are super easy to do, it makes it look a ton better, like miles better. But yeah, I really like this, Christopher. This fantastic piece. Let me check the basing. You can squeeze some more reviewing goodness out of this 3 hours that we've been here. Oh God. You know what I would do? I would take this brown that you used here. I don't know which brown this is. I would thin it down. Let me make this bigger. Super soft. Yeah, this looks good. Less opaque. And I will thin it down, and I will wash it onto the crevices here. Now I need a smaller brush. Just wash this brown onto the crevices of these rocks here, like this. Just turn it into a wash and just flood the very crevices just here on the bottom. Yeah, that's it. You can do the same here and stuff like that, and just like that. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Now I'm happy. So thank you all for submitting this. Let me put us into the review. Thank you all for submitting this, and thank you for your amazing support as always. This has been a very long live stream. 3 hours. 2 hours 55 minutes. Oh my god, this has been the longest one. I don't know if there's been some answers. Oh my god, we have some donations, so let's go and check them out. So J Carbs was donating 200 I don't know what that is. Sorry, but thank you very much. It's really appreciated. Yeah, Crystalis says this it's a way of talking about Tim, probably. Fantastic job, Tim. Okay, so oh my god. There you go. I was just having so thank you very much, Jake Careb. I really appreciate it. Oh, Andrea Melly says, loved your explanatory feedback one. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Gavin Gartha, yay! Gavin Gartha is watching the chat, man. I just want to say hello. We had a Slayer Sword winner in the chat. Thank you, Gavin, for showing up. Yes, Thunder's really high this week. It's growing month by month. A lot of the Aldax, hello there, what are we looking at? We are looking at miniatures submitted by my patrons and channel members. One each month. They have the opportunity, all channel members and all patrons from the tiers, minutams or above can submit to me each month for me to judge, and this is what we are looking at. I'm giving the feedback and helping them become better. And we have an amazing donation of GWG of 50 US bucks with the Liberty dollars. That's amazing, man. That's really, really, really generous on your behalf. Great show. I always learn something new watching your work. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That's all I want. So Crystal says, thank you for the feedback. These are better than I can do. Family of Gamers. I love Family of Gamers. A great channel. If you like Dead Zone and you like you're going to like Family of Gamers. Just check them out. They make good videos. What's up, family? Love the channel. You have helped me improve my painting. Much love from the Family of Gamers crew. I really appreciate it. I've been following you. You were making videos before I started. I was watching your videos when I was trying to decide if I wanted to do this, and so thank you for the inspiration and for the great content that you've been doing for a very long time. Thank you, Family of Gamers, and go and check them out. They make good stuff. Paul Blunt, thank you on. I have some level of detail with the feedback. Thank you, Paul, for your submission. If not, Arlong Degan says, thanks for the glue info. I had no clue. Happy to help. And thank you for your donation of €1.49. Much appreciated. That really helps. People think that this doesn't help. This helps a lot. More than you can imagine. Liam, thank you very much, Juan. Definitely might try that other approach on the next mech. And try not to collapse doing the edge highlight. Kelso says, hello, the pirate ogre chap was mine. Thank you for the feedback. Will be sure to be a bit bothered with my skin hues and try to all of your suggestions. Thank you very much. Yeah, says here, Vince's, yeah, I think this is Andy B. Says, Vince's Scorched Earth video was great. May use it for my avatar. It was a fantastic video. I was watching it this morning. And just says, thanks Juan, we'll check the videos out. Fantastic. And just says here something that is very important. I don't go back to models I deem as finished, but I always use the advice in next time. That is the way to go. Always try to paint other stuff. Why lose your time stripping an old model and trying to paint it better when you can just, paint another stuff, paint other model, have more models done. That is the best way to do it. Yeah, and if it was Andy B, yeah. And yes, it says, thank you for the great advice one. Yes, I did highlight the tufts. That's the way to go. You have to highlight your tufts. That dwarf's make looks a bit lost. Yeah. I guess a brush has to have one hair to paint such lines. I think he's talking about the lines on the hair on the dwarf, maybe. But I think I could do it with a larger brush than you can imagine. So it's just a little bit of practice and just be gentle and soft. Otaniman says, oh, got the live stream on his last few seconds of my mini. Great. The hoverfoot has been fixed. Great to see that. To hear that. First time I glued the mini, it slightly leaned back bottom and the intestine wasn't as flat as I thought it was. Glad that you fixed that. And it's, again, Otari man, you did a fantastic job on that dwarf. And the TMM of the arch was charming. Yeah, I agree. And then we move into Chris Porter, which was the last mini, and yet Xavier, I really struggled with fine lines. We all do. So don't be ashamed of that. Making thin lines, it's one of the most difficult things there is. That's why trying to recreate 100% the heavy metal standard is very, very difficult. This is what this guy is all about. I'm going to make a video how to try to copy the heavy metal team painting as close as possible. Not going to skip or try to cheat anything. This is 100% how the heavy metal team does it, and I'm trying to do it the thinnest line possible, and I will give some advice on thin lines there, gathered from people like Inferno Brush and stuff like that, and my own experiences. So stay tuned for that video because it's coming at some point. Just says, you are exhausted after 3 hours. Your wife, however, has had the best nap and is raring to chat when you're finished. Yeah, probably, that's true. And Gavin is waving. Ian Dyer, thanks for your comment on my avatar yesterday. Really appreciate your work. You did a good job. I think what avatar, the avatar you are referring to, is one that was had the body painted with my tutorial. You did a great job. So now time for some embers and OSL. Yes, with beat as always. Thank you, man. So I think we have reached the bottom of the comments, and I think it's time we leave it for today. I need to rest. 3 hours. This is the longest review ever, and I really hope you liked it, and I thank you for your amazing support, for all the amazing donations here on the chat today, and to all of my lovely patrons and channel members for the support they give me each month. If you want to take part on this review, you know what you have to do. Go to my Patreon, or to my channel member, or to my YouTube membership. Just join on the Miniatures level or above, and each month you will be able to submit 1 minute, and I will be super glad to give them the best review I can. So thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.